The warrior's pride. The twin sons of Thesara cast crimson light across the training grounds, where Kaela Vorn surveyed her warriors with the practiced eye of someone who had never known defeat. Her bronze skin gleamed with the exertion of the morning drills, her dark hair braided in the intricate pattern that marked her as High Commander. She moved through the ranks with fluid grace, correcting stances and offering praise where earned. Respect came naturally to her. It always had. From childhood, Kyla understood that strength commanded attention, that physical prowess opened doors, and that her striking features only amplified her authority. Suitors approached with gifts and challenges, each hoping to prove themselves worthy through combat or displays of power. She had accepted some, rejected most, but never once had she questioned the fundamental nature of these exchanges. Attraction meant desire. Desire meant claiming. That was simply how things worked. Commander Vorn, a voice interrupted her thoughts. Unfamiliar, accented strangely. I hope I'm not intruding. Kaela turned to find a human standing at the edge of the training grounds, clearly out of place among her warriors. He wore simple field clothes rather than armor, carried no weapons, and held himself with an openness that immediately struck her as naive. His light brown hair was tousled by the wind, and his hazel eyes held an expression of genuine curiosity rather than challenge or hunger. "You are the off-worlder," she stated, not quite a question. "The one studying our plants." "Dr. Ethan Cross," he confirmed, with a slight smile. "I'm actually a botanist, yes, but I'm equally interested in understanding the cultures that develop alongside unique ecosystems. Your world's flora is remarkable, but so are its people." Kaela studied him, waiting for the inevitable shift, the moment his eyes would linger too long, the subtle change in posture that signaled something more primal than academic interest. It never came. Instead, Ethan simply waited, patient and respectful, as though her appearance held no more significance than that of any other person he might meet. "What do you want?" she asked, more puzzled than she cared to admit. "To learn," he replied simply. "If you're willing to teach me about Thesaran traditions, I'd be grateful, not from a distance, observing like your specimens, but through actual conversation. I find that's how real understanding happens." Kaela felt something unfamiliar stir within her, curiosity mixed with the faintest hint of vulnerability. "Conversation," she repeated slowly, testing the word. "Very well, Dr. Cross. Tomorrow evening, meet me at the Eastern Overlook after sunset. We'll see if your approach has any merit." As he thanked her and departed, Kaela found herself wondering why a simple conversation felt more daunting than any battle she had ever faced.
The unexpected exchange. The Eastern Overlook jutted from Thesara's crimson cliffs like a sentinel watching the valleys below. Kayla arrived as the twin suns began their descent, painting the sky in shades of amber and violet. She'd chosen to wear simpler attire than her usual ceremonial armor, a practical tunic and fitted pants that allowed ease of movement. Still, she kept a blade at her hip. Old habits died hard. Ethan was already there, sitting on a smooth boulder with a small thermal lantern beside him and what appeared to be 2 cups. He stood when he saw her approach, that same open expression on his face. "Thank you for coming," he said, gesturing to the space beside him. "I brought some tea from Earth, chamomile and honey. I thought we might share it while we talk." Kayla settled onto the boulder, accepting the cup he offered. The warmth felt pleasant against her palms as twilight brought cooler air. "So, botanist, what is it you wish to know about Thesaran traditions?" "Tell me about what matters to your people," Ethan said, wrapping both hands around his own cup. "Not the tactical information in the cultural databases. The real things. What brings you joy? What do you fear? What do you dream about when you're alone?" The questions caught her off guard. Most visitors asked about combat techniques, mating rituals, political structures, tangible, external things. "We value strength," she answered automatically, "physical excellence, the ability to protect and provide." "Those sound like official answers," Ethan observed gently. "Let me try differently. Why did you become a warrior?" Kayla sipped her tea, the unfamiliar sweetness coating her tongue. Why had she? Because I was good at it. Because it earned respect. Because those who are strong lead, and those who are weak follow. And do you enjoy it? The question hung in the air between them. Did she enjoy it? Kayla had never considered enjoyment as a factor. She said, "It's fulfilling, knowing I protect my people. That gives me purpose." Ethan nodded, seeming to genuinely absorb her words. Purpose is important, I understand that. He gazed out at the darkening landscape. I became a botanist because plants fascinated me as a child. My mother had a garden and I'd spend hours watching things grow. But also, he paused, his expression growing softer, my younger sister had a difficult illness when we were young. The hospital had a greenhouse, and I'd take her there. She said the flowers made her feel hopeful. She recovered, and years later at her wedding, she carried the same flowers we used to visit. I realized then that my work wasn't just about plants, it was about the life and meaning they brought to people. Kayla found herself leaning forward slightly. Your sister married for love? Yes, Ethan smiled. She'd known Marcus since they were children. They grew up as friends first, then gradually realized they couldn't imagine life without each other. It wasn't about physical attraction primarily, though that was certainly there. It was about emotional connection, shared history, understanding each other's souls. Souls, Kayla repeated, the concept foreign yet intriguing. On Thessera, we bond through physical compatibility. Strength recognizes strength. Desire is straightforward. And does that bring you happiness? Ethan asked, his eyes meeting hers with genuine interest rather than judgment. The question struck deeper than any blade. Kayla looked away, toward the stars beginning to emerge in the darkening sky. It brings satisfaction, connection of a sort, but happiness, Kayla trailed off, unsure how to articulate the hollow feeling that she sometimes crept in during quiet moments. Maybe, Ethan suggested softly, there are different kinds of connection, different types of intimacy that fulfill different parts of who we are. Kayla turned back to him, studying his face in the lantern's warm glow. For the first time in her life, she wondered if strength alone was enough, or if perhaps she'd been missing something essential all along.
Vulnerability unveiled. 3 weeks had passed since that first evening on the Overlook, and Kayla found herself seeking Ethan's company more frequently. They'd fallen into a routine. She'd show him aspects of Thesseran culture, he'd share stories from Earth, and somehow, in the spaces between words, something was shifting within her. The storm arrived without warning, as Thesseran tempests often did. Kayla and Ethan had been examining a grove of bioluminescent trees when the sky darkened and rain began lashing down in heavy sheets. Lightning split the clouds, and thunder rolled across the valleys like the drums of war. "This way," Kayla shouted over the wind, grabbing Ethan's hand and pulling him toward a shallow cave she knew carved into the nearby cliff face. They stumbled inside just as the storm intensified, both breathing hard, drenched and shivering. Ethan quickly activated his portable heat source while Kayla assessed their shelter. It was small, but dry, and they'd be safe here until the storm passed. She moved to help him arrange the device when a sharp pain made her wince. "You're hurt," Ethan said immediately, noticing her favoring her left side. "It's nothing," Kayla replied reflexively. "I scraped against a rock branch. Minor." But Ethan was already retrieving a medical kit from his pack. "Let me see." "I said it's nothing," Kayla insisted, though the gash along her ribs was bleeding more than she'd like to admit. On Thessera, showing injury was showing weakness, and weakness invited challenge. Ethan paused, kneeling before her. "Kayla," he said gently, "letting someone care for you isn't weakness, it's trust. Will you let me help you?" Something in his tone, earnest, without pity or judgment, made her defenses crumble. Slowly, she lifted the edge of her torn tunic, revealing the wound. Ethan worked with careful practice movements, cleaning and bandaging with a tenderness that felt more intimate than any physical encounter she'd experienced. "Thank you," she murmured when he finished. They sat side by side, watching rain cascade past the cave entrance like a silver curtain. The warmth from the heat source created a cocoon of comfort against the storm's fury outside. "Can I tell you something?" Kayla said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Something I've never told anyone?" "Of course," Ethan replied, shifting to face her more fully.
"I'm lonely," she admitted, the words feeling like they were being pulled from somewhere deep inside her chest. "I'm surrounded by warriors who respect me, admirers who desire me, advisors who need me, but I feel lonely, like there's a part of me that no one sees or wants to see. They see the commander, the warrior, the leader, but not just me." Ethan reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wished. When she didn't, he took her hand in his thumb tracing gentle circles on her palm. "I see you, Kayla. Not just the titles or the strength, though those are part of you too. I see someone who carries tremendous responsibility, who questions and wonders, who watches the stars and dreams of something more. Someone who's incredibly brave in battle, but even braver right now, being honest about what she feels." Tears, something Kayla hadn't allowed herself in years, pricked at the corners of her eyes. "On your world, is this what emotional intimacy means? This feeling of being truly seen?" "It's part of it," Ethan said softly. "It's vulnerability and acceptance. It's sharing not just your body, but your fears, your dreams, your authentic self. It's knowing someone will hold those things carefully, as the precious gifts they are." The storm raged outside, but inside the cave, something quieter and more profound was taking place. Kayla turned her hand to intertwine her fingers with his, feeling the warmth of his skin against hers, not in desire for claiming or conquest, but in simple, profound connection. "I'm afraid," she confessed, "of these feelings, of wanting something I don't understand." "I'm afraid too," Ethan admitted. "I've never felt this way before either. But maybe fear means it matters. Maybe it means it's real." They sat together as the storm gradually subsided, hands joined, shoulders touching, sharing a silence that spoke volumes more than words ever could.
Hearts entwined. The morning after the storm, Kayla woke with a clarity she'd never experienced. The sky had washed clean to a brilliant azure, and the air carried the fresh scent of rain-soaked earth. She'd spent the night thinking about Ethan's words, about vulnerability and connection, about being truly seen. Something fundamental had shifted in her understanding of what she wanted, what she needed. She found Ethan at his research station, cataloging samples with meticulous care. When he looked up and saw her, his face broke into a smile that made her heart do something strange and wonderful. "Walk with me?" she asked. "There's somewhere I want to show you." They traveled in companionable silence through the recovering landscape, past the training grounds and beyond the settlement's outer markers. Kayla led him up a narrow trail that wound through ancient rock formations until they reached a hidden grove she'd discovered as a young warrior, a place she'd never shared with anyone. The grove was small, encircled by trees with silver bark that caught the light like captured moonbeams. In the center, a natural spring fed a crystal-clear pool that reflected the sky above. Flowers with petals like scattered starlight grew around the water's edge. "It's beautiful," Ethan breathed, his voice hushed with reverence. "I come here when I need to remember who I am beneath all the expectations," Kayla said, settling onto a smooth stone beside the pool. "When being commander becomes too heavy." Ethan sat beside her, close enough that their shoulders nearly touched. "Thank you for trusting me with this." Kayla turned to face him fully, gathering her courage. "You've shown me something I didn't know existed, this depth of connection that goes beyond physical desire. On Thesara, we're taught that attraction is simple. You want someone, they want you, you come together in mutual satisfaction. But what I feel with you," she paused, searching for words, "it's like discovering I've been living in only 3 dimensions when a 4th has existed all along." Ethan reached up slowly, giving her every opportunity to move away, and gently brushed a strand of hair from her face. His touch was feather-light, reverent. "What you're describing is emotional intimacy. It's the difference between knowing someone's body and knowing their heart.
Both can be beautiful, but together, he smiled softly, together they create something transcendent. Is that what you want? Kayla asked, her voice trembling slightly. With me? Yes, Ethan said simply, if you want it too. Not because of your title or your strength or even your beauty, though you are breathtaking, but because of who you are when you let your guard down. Because of your curiosity, your honesty, the way you question everything you've been taught in search of deeper truth. Because being with you makes me want to be braver, more authentic. Kayla felt her breath catch. She'd been desired before, pursued, even admired, but wanted for the essence of who she truly was? That was entirely new. I want this too, she whispered. I want to learn this new language of connection with you. Ethan cupped her face gently with both hands, his gaze searching hers. May I kiss you? The fact that he asked, that he sought her permission rather than simply taking, made her heart swell with emotion. Yes, she breathed. When their lips met, it was unlike any physical contact Kayla had experienced. There was desire, yes, but layered with something infinitely more profound. It was tender and exploratory, a conversation without words. His hands trembled slightly against her skin, and she realized he was as affected as she was, as vulnerable in this moment. She responded by wrapping her arms around him, pulling him closer but with care rather than conquest. They kissed slowly, thoroughly, learning the shape and taste of each other. When they finally parted, both were breathing unevenly. That was... Kayla couldn't find words adequate to describe the sensation, like every nerve ending had awakened to a frequency she'd never perceived before. That was emotional and physical intimacy together, Ethan said softly, his forehead resting against hers, heart and body in harmony. They stayed in the grove for hours, talking and touching with a gentleness that was revolutionary for Kayla. Ethan traced patterns on her palm while telling her about his dreams for the future. She laid her hand on his shoulder while describing her hopes for her people. They kissed again, longer this time, with growing passion that was nonetheless tempered by profound tenderness. As the twin suns began their descent, painting the grove in golden light, Kayla realized she'd been wrong about everything. Intimacy wasn't about conquest or satisfaction. It was about this: two souls meeting in complete honesty, offering themselves without armor of pretense, and finding acceptance and cherishing in return. I love you, she said suddenly, the words emerging with startling clarity. Is that the right phrase? This feeling like you've become essential to my existence? Ethan's eyes shimmered with emotion. Yes, that's exactly the right phrase. And I love you too, Kayla, with everything I am. In that hidden grove, surrounded by silver trees and starlight flowers, they held each other as the world turned, two hearts learning to beat in synchrony.
A new understanding. The council chamber fell silent as Kyla stood before the assembly of Thesara's most respected warriors and elders. She'd requested this gathering, and curiosity, tinged with concern, rippled through the room. The High Commander rarely called formal meetings without military necessity. Ethan stood at the back of the chamber at Kyla's insistence. She'd wanted him present, but didn't want him to feel scrutinized. Their relationship had blossomed over the past months into something that had transformed her entirely. Now it was time to share that transformation with her people. Honored warriors, respected elders, Kyla began, her voice carrying the authority they'd always known, but tempered with something new: openness. I stand before you today, not only as your commander, but as someone who has discovered a profound truth about the nature of connection. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Commander Thal, a grizzled veteran who'd trained Kyla in her youth, leaned forward with interest.
We have always valued physical strength, directness in desire, and bonds formed through mutual attraction and combat prowess. These are not wrong or lesser. They are part of who we are as Thesarans. But I have learned they are not complete. She took a breath, feeling Ethan's supportive presence even from across the room. The human, Dr. Cross, has taught me about emotional intimacy, a form of connection that engages not just the body, but the heart and mind. It is vulnerability offered and accepted. It is being known in your entirety and cherished, not despite your weaknesses, but including them. It is trust, understanding, and the courage to be completely authentic with another soul. This sounds like weakness, challenged Commander Nira, a fierce warrior known for her traditionalist views. We are strong because we do not indulge in excessive sentiment. I thought the same, Kyla acknowledged, but I was wrong. It takes far more courage to open your heart than to raise your blade. Emotional intimacy doesn't diminish physical strength, it enhances it. When you fight not just for duty, but for someone who truly knows and loves you, when you protect not just territory, but the person who holds your deepest truths, you fight with a fierceness that transcends mere skill. Elder Soren, the oldest member of the council, spoke with his characteristic gravitas. "And what do you propose, Commander?" "I propose we expand our understanding of connection," Kyla said firmly, "that we teach our young warriors that true intimacy can encompass both physical and emotional bonds, that we celebrate relationships built on depth of understanding as much as we celebrate those built on unmatched strength, that we allow ourselves to be complete beings, powerful and vulnerable, strong and tender, warriors and lovers in the fullest sense of all those words." She paused, then added with raw honesty, "I have fallen in love with Dr. Cross, not because he is the strongest or the most dominant, but because he sees me, truly sees me, and values what he finds there. He has made me stronger by teaching me it's safe to be vulnerable. He has shown me that intimacy is not about conquest, but about mutual revelation and cherishing. This has not made me a worse leader. It has made me more complete." The chamber erupted in discussion. Some voices raised in support, others in concern. Commander Thal stood, raising a hand for silence. "I have watched our commander for many years. In recent months, I have seen her make decisions with greater wisdom, lead with more compassion, and yet lose none of her tactical brilliance. If this emotional intimacy has contributed to that growth, then perhaps it deserves consideration." Elder Soren nodded slowly. "Our culture has served us well, but no culture is perfect or complete. Perhaps it is time we evolved, adding new dimensions to our understanding without discarding what has made us strong." The debate continued for hours, but gradually, consensus emerged. Thesara would not abandon its traditions, but would expand them. Warriors would still be honored for physical prowess, but emotional connection would be valued as a complementary strength. The concept of intimacy would be taught as multifaceted, body, heart, and mind in harmony. As the council adjourned, Ethan approached Kyla, his eyes shining with pride and love. "You were magnificent," he said. "I was terrified," she admitted, taking his hand. "But you taught me that being terrified and doing something anyway is the truest form of courage. What happens now?" he asked softly. Kyla smiled, an expression of pure joy that transformed her features. "Now we build something new together, a relationship that honors both our worlds, Thesaran passion and human emotional depth. We show others what's possible when you're brave enough to be vulnerable." She pulled him close, kissing him softly in full view of any council members who remained. It was a declaration and a promise that love in all its dimensions was not weakness, but the greatest strength of all. In the weeks that followed, Kyla and Ethan became teachers as well as lovers. They led workshops on emotional communication. They shared their story with curious warriors who'd felt that same unnamed loneliness Kyla had experienced. Slowly, Thessaran culture began to shift, making space for tenderness alongside strength, for vulnerability alongside power. Ethan's research concluded, but he chose to stay, making Thessara his home. He and Kyla built a life together that blended both their heritages, fierce and gentle, passionate and profound, constantly exploring new depths of connection. On quiet evenings, they would return to their secret grove, sitting by the crystal pool beneath silver trees. There they would talk and touch and simply be together, two souls who had found in each other not just a partner, but a home for their complete, authentic selves. Love, they'd learned, wasn't about one culture or one way of connecting. It was about two people brave enough to see each other fully and wise enough to cherish what they found. It was about building bridges between worlds, both outer and inner, and discovering that intimacy in all its forms, physical, emotional, spiritual, was the force that made life not just endurable, but transcendent. And in teaching this to her people, Kyla Vorn discovered her greatest victory had nothing to do with battle, and everything about the courage to open her heart.